What is happening, everybody? I'm Larry Roberts.
And I'm Sarah Losi, and this is Branded, your comprehensive guide to creative branding.
And on this awesome episode of the podcast, we have another amazing guest that's going to talk to us about, well, how to transform your blogs into your most reliable source for getting new clients and sales. So John Clemens joins us today. John, thanks, man. Really appreciate you rescheduling and getting with us today.
Yeah, Larry, Sarah, I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to talk. So I'm excited to get into it.
That's
we're
awesome.
Excited to have you here. And I'm finally not outnumbered by AI people. There's actually another writer, and this is so exciting for me.
Look, guys, I'm just going to say it right now. John, you don't know this, but when I wrote my book, which is right behind me here under the red hat, I did write chapter 3 all by myself. I wrote it myself. I jumped on the keyboard and pounded it out. So I wrote an actual chapter in my book. So I'm a writer too.
And we're very proud of him.
So John, how long you been writing, man? What got you into writing? And is it a creative outlet for you? Is it a professional outlet for you? Tell us a little bit about your background and how you fell in love with writing.
Yeah, so for a long time, it was just a creative outlet. I'm a big nerd and I just own it. And so I just, that's just who I am and it's cool. I'm good with that. So I was the kid in high school English class who loved Shakespeare and enjoyed, I was the guy who's like, Romeo and Juliet, sweet. Can we read Midsummer Night's Dream next? Well, all the other kids look at me like I'm a moron.
I can recite Hamlet. We're good.
Yeah. So that was me, right? And I was also the kid, and this was, high school, college, and I even went to seminary. So even during seminary, I was the guy who was like, hey, you want me to proofread your paper, find all the mistakes? I'll do it just because I like to do it. So that was my passion. It's been that way for a long time. But to make money, I was actually in the corporate world, which was great. I did 15 years. It was great the first 10 years. And then it became really not so great.
Sounds like marriage.
I've been married 18 years, and I'm doing good.
Sounds like a personal problem.
Where am I at? I'm at 23 myself. So yeah, we're good job on 18, man. You don't hear that very often. Yeah, you don't hear that often at all.
I told her after we've been married about 60 years, we'll see where we're at if we want to keep going or not.
We'll reevaluate. Yeah,
reevaluate. So again, first 10 years, it was fine. It was a paycheck. The last 5. So I used to work for a very large aerospace company based in the Pacific Northwest. I won't say which one, but you might remember the news, about 7 or 8 years ago, they started crashing airplanes and people started losing their lives. And I said, guys, I can't do this anymore. That's just not cool with me. So I moved on to a different company, and that didn't get really any better because it just wasn't for me anymore. But I was too scared to know what to do. But COVID came along. You might remember that portion of history.
I've got some vague recollection.
Yes, that happened. And I lost my job, right? The economy crashed and I was a casualty. So that gave me this opportunity, though, to say, wait a second, what do I actually want to do with my life? How can I actually take my passions and help people and also make an income? So at 40 years old, I'm sitting here starting a new career, and I decided to get into proofreading and editing. And so that's what I did. I got on Upwork. I just started at $10 an hour, just doing basic proofreading. And I just grew it from there. I did more and more, raised my rates, got better clients, got into the writing game as well. And so that's now where we are now, I guess about 4 years later. So I'm doing writing, I'm doing editing. I have an agency I'm trying to build up to do the same thing on a larger scale. And I'm my own boss. And so it's pretty incredible. It's not without its challenges, but I really enjoy it.
Dude, that's amazing. And that puts you at about 44, 45?
I think I'm about, I don't know, I was born in 1981. So whenever you're listening to this, do the math.
Wow. I can't. That's way too much math for me.
43. I just turned 43. Wow. That's it.
Congrats, man. Yeah, you don't look 43. So good job on that.
Thank you.
And that's an amazing story because we hear those types of stories often, but we have a hard time going, did it really happen? And here you are today talking about how you started on Upwork. Fiverr, Upwork, these same platforms, and you grew it into a legitimate business because of your passion and your skill set. And I commend you for that. And I love the fact that you're here as living proof that people can actually do that. So congratulations.
Hey, thank you so much.
you were actually able to take your passion and turn that into a job. What is it about blogs specifically that makes you passionate about it? Like, what is it about that medium that is so powerful?
Yeah, I think it's a really great way to kind of put forth who you are to your potential customers, right? So like if you think about how Google rates things to like do all their SEO, a lot of times we want to get real deep in the weeds with like the technical aspects of SEO, and that's good. But really at the end of the day, what is it? They're looking for authority and expertise and trustworthiness, right? And experience. So all these things, that's really what it boils down to. And a blog is like a great place to do that. You get to kind of show your personality and your voice. And when you make it about your potential customers and your potential readers, and we can talk about how to do that, and you start solving people's problems and providing value to people, okay, now you've really got something. Now you've got something that's going to resonate with people. It might grow your email list. It might grow your lead list. It might lead to, more sales and more customers. So to me, it's like this great way to just get yourself out there, especially if you're not maybe comfortable in front of a camera. And if you are, there's also ways to kind of duplicate that effort, in those avenues. So really, it's just like a great platform to say, hey, world, this is who I am. This is the value I can provide. And just let's go on a journey together. So that's why I like blogs.
Yeah, I love that. With posting a blog, how is it that you're able to then turn that into clients? Because I know with your business, you use blogging as that lead generation. And why, Larry?
Because I had a speck. I had a white speck sitting here on my shoulder.
Pop the collar.
And while you were talking, I was going to knock it off, but you had to make a deal out of it. So now it's gone, but now it's also a deal. So
it's a deal.
So yeah, I was just trying to be. I wasn't going, oh, shake the haters off or anything like that. I was just, I really had a speck right here that was irritating me. Sorry.
So how do we take blogs and turn them into clients? We told you we've never done this before.
Yeah, that's right. The first thing you want to do is you want to make sure your clothes are nice and clean.
Got to be crispy, dude. Got to be crispy.
Yeah.
Got to have that drip, right? Is that what the cool kids say?
They do say drip. I'm not cool, so I don't,
I don't know either.
I still say things are rad, so I'm way out.
Hey, good for you. My friend Josh says that. I love it. So keep saying it. So there's a ton of things you can do to take your blog and basically make it into something that's going to actually benefit your business. And I actually, like, if you go to my website, and I think there will probably be a link at some point anyway, you can download a self-assessment that give you a ton of them. But rather than going through like 15 things, what I thought was maybe we could just go through 3 basic things that like anybody can do, and that you can apply this to new blog posts. You can apply this to blog posts you've already written. You can even apply it to social media posts. You can apply it to sales emails, basically any kind of business content. So I want to go through those, I think, and I think that's going to provide some serious value to your listeners.
Sure.
And yeah, so let's talk about that. So the first thing is to remember that, like, we live in an attention economy, right? Like if you're scrolling through your feed, like you're just scrolling, cat video, basketball highlight, whatever. And so everybody wants your attention as a internet user. So how do you get someone's attention? You need to write a good hook. Like that's the very first thing I would say. So the first sentence or two of your blog post, let's say, it's really going to determine how well your blog is going to perform. So you really want to make it good. And so you can make a hook any way you want. There's 1,000 different ways, but just a couple different things you can think about. So especially like in a business context. A statistic is always a great way to start, like some kind of startling statistic. So for example, I'll give you one. So did you know if you have a blog for your business, you're 434% more likely to rank on Google than if you don't have one?
Wow.
That's a big number.
So wow, that is a big number. So I've got your attention now. So I could write a blog post about why that's important, how to do it, because like, oh, wow, that means I could potentially like make more money. I am into this now. Like, let me read this. So a statistic can be a great hook. So can like a controversial statement. So for instance, like if I said,
Harry Potter is dumb.
Harry Potter is dumb. Well, you're going to get.
I'm leaving.
Right. You're going to get some attention with that.
Not
the
from
one I
me.
like to use.
Scrolling right past you.
I think Harry Potter is fine.
Thank
I
you.
mean, it's fine.
No,
When you said the like company before for that like had the airplanes, my first thought was Grunnings, and I'm like, oh, I nailed it. It was Grunnings. That's the
No.
drill company that Uncle Vernon worked for in Harry Potter, and I
Oh, yeah, it
realized
is.
that like a
Yeah.
few minutes later.
The
And
company
I'm
I
all-
work for, rhymes with going.
Yeah, that's kind of what
About
that's
That
exactly
was
where
my
I went.
second guess after
Yeah.
the Harry Potter.
That's exactly where I went was going. So,
Mhm.
Yep.
anyways, let's get going
Yeah.
back to what you were saying.
Yeah. So another one, like one that I might use that would probably in a business setting would be like, I might start with stop using AI if you want to get results, because that's
And
going
now
to
I'm
like,
out.
oh my gosh, right? So I don't really mean stop using AI, but it's going to get your attention. And then I
Sure.
can go into don't use it like this, use it like that, right? And so there you go. And maybe the best way, honestly, is just a personal story. So if you have a product or service that you offer and you can tie it into something in your life, then that's because you think about it, like we've been telling stories to one another since we were sitting around the campfire, right? Like hundreds
Sure.
of thousands of years ago. So a story connects in ways that pretty much nothing else can. Maybe a song would be the only other thing,
Which is generally a story.
which is generally a story. Yeah. So writing good hooks, getting people's attention right away. That's like the number one thing I would suggest, because that's going to hook people and get them interested in what you had to say.
Sure.
The second one is actually, it sounds kind of pedantic, but it's actually super important. And that's, you got to get your formatting right. And so, you're probably thinking like formatting, who cares about formatting? Why? Well, it's actually super important because of a couple of reasons. Number one, you may not know, here's another stat to kind of crunch on in your head. 61% of people who visit your website are on their phone. So think about that. If you're on your phone and you're trying to read a website or a blog post or whatever, and it's just a wall of text,
Mm-hmm.
oh my gosh, that's the worst, right? I'm not reading this. I'm going
Right.
to scroll to the bottom. Is there like a highlight? Is there like a TLDR, right? I don't want to read this. So a super simple thing you can do is just break up your paragraphs, right? Make every paragraph 2 or 3 sentences and then hit the enter button. So if you can hit the enter button, you can do this. Like, that's really that easy.
Mhm.
And then also add headers. If you don't have headers on your text, add them, because something like 84% of us, we just kind of skim your article before we read it, right? We want to know if it's got what it needs. So headers, that's how you do that. You tell people what you're going to tell them.
So I used to, I was a ghostwriter for a while, and one of the contracts that I worked with was writing for Forbes.com. And Forbes.com is one of the probably most successful blog out there, because it kind of is what it is. It's a blog. People get contracts and they can post to this website. And they have so many formatting rules. And one of them is you need to have headers and subheads, because they know that people aren't going to sit there and read the whole article. They're going to skim, and they need to have those subheads to catch their attention and make them like, okay, I'm going to actually read this section.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and that's kind of where I was going too, is with the formatting. I mean, we've got H1, H2, H3, and 4, 5, and 6 headers. And a lot of people don't use those when they're writing blogs or even writing their newsletters. If people are sending out newsletters, they're not formatting them correctly. And that's absolutely critical for ranking in SEO as well, is to use that markup structure.
Now, I
Yeah.
have a question.
Mhm.
So you seem very smart with like formatting and SEO. I generally make my subheads like H4 or 5, specifically because I don't like the size of H2 and 3. They're too big. Is that making it worse for SEO?
Oh, what a great question that is. So I am not a technical expert by any means. I know that's not the best practice. How about that? So yeah, you generally want to have one H1 header, which is your title, and then H2s and H3s, and then H4 and H5 if you want to really get down into the weeds. So I would guess that that's not the best practice, and you should probably do something a little bit different. But I don't have like the stats or the data to back that up.
Makes sense. I'm pretty sure all I have to do is change the settings of my H2 to be smaller, but that's a lot.
I would guess, yeah.
And we are deep in the weeds here, folks. Let me ask you this though, John, because I mean, we hear all the time about how to get discovered. Discoverability is everybody's biggest challenge. I mean, we're deep in the podcast space, so that's one of our primary focuses for our clients is that discoverability. How do we overcome the discoverability challenge for our blog? I mean, I had a blog back in the, I don't know, was it 80s, 90s? What was it, 90s when MySpace was Cat Daddy? And no one read my blog. So how do we overcome that discoverability challenge there with our blogs?
Yeah, excuse me. Yeah, that's where it gets into the marketing side of things, right? And now you've got to figure out how you're going to market that, because there are people who have written blogs and have relied purely on organic SEO, just Google search results, and they have grown their business. And that's wonderful. I sometimes wonder if that's more a matter of luck than anything else, because there's tons of blogs that are out there that are great and that don't get that. So, that's a way you can do it. But like for me, here's one of the things I do is once you write a blog post, now you have infinite social media posts at your disposal, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can repurpose that blog post 1,000 different ways. So that's what I do, right? I get on LinkedIn. That's my primary social media for my business. And I can take one blog post and you know what? I can write 5 different social media posts that I can stick on LinkedIn. And the trick for me is to follow the same format, right? Is to start with an attention grabbing hook, ensure there's plenty of white space, short sentences, short paragraphs. And then the third thing that we didn't get to, but I'll bring in now, is having a good call to action.
Yeah.
Right. Which doesn't have to be selling necessarily. It could be, hey, leave a response in the comments, share this with your friends, right? If growing your views is what you want to do, sign up for my newsletter, a link in the description, right? Or buy my product or book a call with me, whatever it might be. So like those call to actions are, I think, a super important part. And that's really the third tip of even a blog post is you have to tell people what to do. Like, we don't know what you want us to do. Mm-hmm. So if you're saying, how do I get more visibility to my blog? Well, the answer is start posting it on social media or start sharing it with people in your newsletters or whatever. And then have the call to action be, share this with a friend, right? That's a great way to grow your blog presence. So that call to action is a super important tool. And so I would recommend every blog post, every social media post, every email, every newsletter, give that call to action. Tell people what to do next, because we honestly don't know. We don't know what you want us to do. You have to tell us.
Yeah. So when you share the blog, I mean, we talk about repurposing content all the time with podcasts, but I always think of the blog as one of the repurposements of the podcast versus actually repurposing the blog. So that's genius. And now I think I've overlooked so many opportunities. But when you post the blog and all of the repurposed pieces onto social, is your call to action the same call to action as the blog, or is your call to action to go then read the full blog?
For my business, and this is just for me, so it may not apply to you. So for my business, my goal is to ultimately get people to book a call with me so we can sit down and have a conversation just like we're having. And I can find out, what kind of help do you need from me? Do you need editing help? Do you need writing help? Like, what do you need? And then will it work? Will this partnership work? So most of the time, my call to action is going to be book a call. And then on LinkedIn, the parallel to that is connect with me, right? Send a connection. It's because it's virtually the same thing. Occasionally, I will just say, I want my call to action to be go read the full article because I'm trying to get website views. So my honest advice, and this is what I've read and learned from marketers, is figure out what your call to action is, your big call to action, and use that one most of the time. And then sprinkle in others as you can. So again, if your goal is to get more views to your blog because you want to monetize it with ads, then the call to action is click here to read more. If your goal is to sell a product or service, maybe it's sign up for my newsletter, or here's a freebie right then now you're into your sales funnel type stuff. So that's how I would approach that. Is it really depends on your sales funnel, your goals, what you're trying to do, and then pick one CTA that's kind of your primary CTA.
And do you structure the blogs in order to drive that CTA? Meaning, do you write your blogs on topics that align with that CTA and align with your ideal client?
Yes, that's my goal anyway. I tried very hard to do that. So when I write a blog, like if you go to my website, you can check it out. Every blog post is either something you can do in the editing and writing world that will help you do those things better, or reasons why it makes sense to subcontract out that work to someone like me. Because people are in different situations. Some people have the budget and they want to get that off their plate because that's not what they got into the business to do, and other people just have to do it themselves. And I understand that. So I try to like provide value, and then also say, and also, if you don't want to do it or need to get this off your plate, guess what? I can do it, and I can probably do it better than you, in a nice way.
Yeah. I love that method. And that's kind of the method that I use for most of what I do as well. And what we do at Branded is tell them how to do it. And I gotten some pushback from people when I tell them to tell people how to do it, because like, well, then they don't need me. Like, people value their time a lot more than they value money, especially like in the business world, especially the higher up you get, because money for them is far more of an attainable resource than time is. And they're not going to sit there and learn how to do it. They don't have the time for that. But if you tell them how to do it, all you're doing is proving that you know how to do it. So you're just laying out like, I know what I'm doing, and I just proved it because I told you how to do it. So now save your time, spend the money, and have me do it for you, because I already know what I'm doing. I'm going to do it better, and I'm going to do it faster because I don't have to learn it.
And that's exactly what I'm trying to do as well. So that's amazing. Yeah.
With the blog piece of it, so you're trying to get people to have you ghostwrite for them? Is that kind of part of it?
No, so I have an agency, which means anything that has to do with words, we can do it. So it really depends on what you need done. So if you enjoy writing blog posts, wonderful. Then just hire us to come edit and clean it up and do that back end work. Maybe you're really good at ideation. Maybe you've cracked the code of AI and you know how to use it for brainstorming. And you're like, all right, I've got 20 great topics and I want to write a blog, but boy, I don't have 200 hours to do this. Okay, well, we can write it for you. Like, we can do that work. Maybe like Larry, you've written a book and you're like, all right, cool. I've got this great first draft of a book. Now I really need someone to come in and edit it and find all the mistakes and fix all the formatting. Well, we can do that too. So it really depends on the customer's needs. I'm the kind of person, I don't like to do the same thing all the time. I like doing all kinds of things. And so I guess I've kind of grown my business into that, right? Whereas we do all kinds of things, but it's all based on the written word and what you particularly need help with.
So it's interesting. You pointed out some AI things there, and I'm curious because these types of creative positions are what are most threatened by the inclusion of AI. So as somebody that's a creative, as somebody that's a writer, which obviously right now generative AI is, granted there's image generation as well, but it's primarily focused on text-based content. How are you overcoming those challenges when you're competing with AI? I mean, and I'm not saying by any stretch of the imagination AI is better in any way, shape, fashion, or form. Although it works, it's great. But at the same time, I mean, if I'm being serious, there's no human creativity. There's no soul to it, right? It's just a digital output. But how are you countering that AI revolution that we're all experiencing right now as a real creator, as a real author, as a legitimate writer and copywriter? How are you overcoming some of those challenges?
Yeah, it's tough, man, because we're all learning this as we're doing, and it's changing so rapidly that about the time you got it figured out, it changes. And so you got to kind of go learn more about it. So sure. A big part of what I do is I'm just trying to learn about it, and I'm trying to figure out what does it do well, what does it not do well. And you hit the nail on the head. It doesn't have a soul. So at the end of the day, with content editing and content writing, the best way that I've found to look at it is to treat AI like an assistant, not like an employee.
Love that.
So use it for it's really, really good at brainstorming. I mean, really good, way better than I am. So that's what I use it for, right? Sure. Hey, I have a website and I sell dog toys. Hey, AI, give me 20 blog post ideas. Here's my customer. Here's what I'm trying to sell. And it'll spit out 20 ideas, and 5 of them will be really good. 10 of them will be okay, and 5 of them will suck. And so you got to, and then you have to engage your brain and go through and figure that out. So as a way to assist you and to streamline your creative process and to help you with those brainstorming tasks, I think it's great. What I try to do, like on LinkedIn, for example, I try to write about and talk about AI and its benefits and its drawbacks. And so what I say often over there is, don't outsource your writing 100% to AI. And for God's sake, don't outsource your thinking, please. So like if you want to have a website that fills a page with text and that's your goal, then don't hire me. Use AI. You can do it in 5 seconds. Now, if you want text that resonates with people and that actually engages with them and shows who you are and the value you provide, I don't think AI is there yet. I mean, it can help, but it's just not there yet. And the other thing that I try to argue is like AI can't read the room. Okay. As a human being who's an editor and writer, I can read what you wrote and go, well, is this really going to reach the person you're trying to reach? What if we did this angle or that angle? Or, hey, I noticed you just kind of dove into things. Do you have like a story, like a personal story that like ties in that we could start with, right? Like it's really hard to have a conversation with AI about that. It's really hard to have a relationship built on trust with AI. So like I said, it's a challenge. Everybody wants a shortcut. And so if you're just about shortcuts and just about doing it as fast as cheap as possible, I'm probably not your guy anyway, whether AI existed or not. But if you really want it done right and done well, and you really want it to resonate and grab people's attention and push them along the customer journey, I don't think AI is going to achieve that for you. And I don't think it ever will, because it's not a human being. So that's not to say don't use it, but just know what it is and know what it isn't. So that's what I try to argue is, use it for what it's good for, but don't treat it like a shiny new object. Don't treat it like a cheat code, because that's not what it is.
Well, and I love the fact that the cheat code thing. I was trying to think back to that. What was that thing we had back in the day where you could plug it on the front of your PlayStation cartridge and then you plug it in and you get all the cheat codes? Game Genie. Yeah. It's like,
yeah.
I don't know if you're old enough to know what Game Genie is, because I'm about 10 years older than you. But yeah, Game Genie. Look at Sarah's like, what are you talking about? Sarah hates gamers.
I'm about 20 years younger than
Sarah,
both of you.
Sarah hates gamers. So
I don't hate gamers. I just don't understand.
If you're a gamer and you're listening right now, no, Sarah hates you.
I don't hate you. I just think you're kind of a dork, and I don't know what you're talking about. But I like dorks.
Okay. Apparently, you're my co-host and business partner, so it works out great. But I love what you were saying there, John, because you were talking about no soul, and if you want to tell a story, a personal story, you can't use AI for that. And my book is an example of that as well, because that's why I wrote chapter 3. Chapter 3 is the story of the red hat. Why the hell does Larry show up wearing a red hat all the time? And that chapter is the story of the red hat, how it happened and why it happens and what it's done since then. And you're right, AI can't deliver that. So if you're trying to deliver those personal stories that really resonate on, we'll even say on a human level, then you still need to get in there and you still need to click those keyboards yourself, or you need to hire somebody like yourself to help you along that path. So I love the fact that you're driving that home. And I tend to drive that home in my, because I speak on AI. I'm doing one tonight, as a matter of fact. And tomorrow I speak on AI a lot. And this is always part of that conversation, is to let people know that, it's not going to do it all for you. And if you want to tell that human component, you still can't do it. So I love the fact that that's in your messaging as well.
Yeah.
I feel like I've seen so many people that just start using AI, and that becomes like their tool. That's what they do now. And you can see from one post to the next, like, okay, you've stopped writing. You have stopped. This is no longer you. And a lot of it all sounds the same. Like I've read the same post from 4 different people, because they just put the same, basically the same prompt in, and it spits out the same answer. And I think people have to really understand that is brainstorming. That is like first draft at best. And you have to go in and put in the human. You have to put your soul into it and put your passion into it, or else you're just putting out content for the sake of content. And we have enough of that. There's 60 billion pieces of content put into the world every single day. We don't need more. So unless you're putting something out there that actually has a purpose and is going to share something, just don't.
Did you say 60 billion? But billion a day?
I believe it's 60 billion.
There's 8 billion people on the planet. How many people are posting multiple times a day to get to 60?
I got it from a book. I think it was Hook Point. Maybe it's 60 million, but
I
I'm
have that
pretty
book. Yeah, I have
yeah,
that
I'm
book
pretty
too.
sure it's
Yeah.
60 billion.
Wow, that's a ton of
If
content.
it's 60 million, then I apologize, but that's still a lot of content.
Yeah,
That's still too much.
billion. I mean, if you have $60 million and you have $60 billion, you probably are still buying the same shit.
You know what? I quoted it on my website, and I'm checking right now to see which one it is.
All right, let's see. Oh, that's not it. Do we hear the Jeopardy?
How many zeros are in a billion?
Billion's 9. Yeah.
All right, there are more than 60 billion pieces of digital content posted online each day.
Sweet Lord. Oh, yeah. Some people need to put their phones
also
down.
Remember, this isn't just people, it's businesses.
Yeah, well, they need to put their phone. You know, and it's funny because I'm heavily involved in a conference called Podfest. This morning I woke up, I had 5 freaking emails from Podfest. 5! I'm like, bro, dial it back, man. 5 a day? That's freaking insane. But yeah, 60 billion pieces of content. That's hard to even comprehend.
Yeah.
But
it's insane. And when they're all AI generated, like, why are we even putting anything out to begin with?
Yeah, I mean, to your point, and I mean, Larry, you know this better than I do, but you know, AI. Another one of the issues that I see with it is AI is never going to come up with a unique new idea, a new spin on things, right? It's going to take those 60 billion pieces a day, read them all, and just give you the average of what those things are. And so again, let's step back to that soul piece, right? Like, yeah, totally use it for brainstorming. I do it. You should do it. Everyone should do it. But if you're not injecting yourself into that stuff, and I don't know about you, but like just as a consumer, as soon as I start reading something and I go, oh my gosh, why does this sound so lame? Why do I not want to read anymore? It's probably because someone wrote a crappy prompt into ChatGPT and just, copied and pasted. So it just drives me away. It makes me not want to trust you or read you anymore.
Yeah, I've said this before, but about 2 weeks before actually publishing my book, I rewrote most of it because I had done that. I had said, I wrote it. I looked at it, I'm like, this isn't long enough. Put it into ChatGPT and said, make this longer. Then I was like, cool, now it's long enough. And then I went back and read it. I'm like, what have I done? And I had to go back and take out all of that content that ChatGPT wrote and write it myself because I'm like, this went from being something that was me to something that was just not. And I feel like we're just shitting on Larry's life work right now.
I was going to say, that's where you need to watch my video, my top 10 tips on how to make ChatGPT sound just like you.
Yeah.
It's great. It's available out there on YouTube and on LinkedIn, as a matter of fact. No, I'm just kidding. It is there. But anyways, John, we got way off on the AI tangent, which is super, super easy to do when I'm on the call, and I apologize for that. But at the same time, we're talking about using a blog to gain clients and grow your business. Before we start wrapping this thing up, man, what would be your numero uno tip on using a blog to gain clients?
It goes back to the 3 things that I mentioned before. I know it's not one, but
it's all good.
You have to be engaging from the sentence number 1, like from the get-go. So make sure it's engaging, make sure it's personable. Get the formatting right. That formatting is so important. And I see so many examples where it's just like makes my eyes want to bleed because like, oh my gosh, it's just nothing but a wall of text. I'm not reading this. So get the formatting right. And then, like I said, from a business perspective, man, that call to action is so important. Tell people what to do next because we don't know. So if you can just do those 3 things, or if you don't want to do them, hire me to do it for you, whatever. You're going to be ahead of so many businesses out there, and you're going to see so much better results just with those 3 things alone. So that's what I would say.
Right on. Love it. Love it. John Clements, we really appreciate you joining us today, man. It was a fun conversation. Probably a little offbeat for you compared to some of the other podcasts you've been on, but we just take it as it comes here. We just roll with the punches. All right. So John, do us a favor, man. Where can everybody find you if they're looking to work with you?
Yeah, there's 2 places you can find me. Number 1, you can go to my website. It's cedarpressproofreading.com. And there's a button right at the very top that says book a call. If you want to get on the phone with me, a Zoom call, whatever, we'll just have a conversation. It'll be cool. And if you want to get a hold of me on LinkedIn, you can find me over there too. You can search for my name, John Clements, or Cedar Press Proofreading. So I encourage you to go over there, send me a connect request, and we'll just have a conversation.
That's cool, man. I got to ask though, Cedar Press. Are you a big fan of Cedar, or where did that name come from?
I chose that name because it sounded like a legitimate business.
I love that answer.
I freaking love it. That is freaking amazing. And here, I'm going to share a story. And I probably shouldn't because there's a little profanity included, but I'm just going to abbreviate the profanity. But I have a tech background. I was in IT for 21 years at this one company. And me and another friend of mine, we always had side hustles, right? And we were going to start a consulting company. And we were trying to come up with a name, right? And we ended up with DH2 Solutions. And that sounds cool, right? It sounds official, sounds technically based, right? But it really just stood for two pieces of male anatomy, because we're both just a couple of those, and it was just two of us. So yeah, that was the name of our company, but it sounded official, so that was what we called it.
Yeah,
DH2 Solutions that's where we're at. So anyways, with that, hey guys, if you're looking for some solutions to your branding needs, then do us a favor, hit that subscribe button so we can continue to bring you these amazing insights and
so
amazing
glad I
guests.
made you rebrand.
I've been through so many brands. Thankfully, the Red Hat hit, and that's where we're at today. But we would love to have you join us each week for these awesome conversations and these amazing guests like John. So we appreciate you listening. With that, I am Larry Roberts.
And I'm Sarah Losey. We'll talk to you next week.